I'm your cult boyfriend. Today we're talking about Gossip Girl season 5. I've been having a ball, having a blast studying Gossip Girl, as I think it's one of the most fascinating pieces of media, works of art that I've ever engaged with. Season 5 does a lot of things, right? I remember in season 4, I did say that we are being introduced to a new set of symbols, a new language. Gossip is changing, just like fashion changes. Gossip changes with it, and we're being taught a new set of rules, a new set of standards, a new organization of symbols and markers, right? Season 5 makes good on teaching me that this new this new language, because season 5 goes to a lot of pretty wild places that wouldn't have worked if I wasn't right about season 4, and season 4 being this kind of introductory season to a new set of symbols. I'd like to probably open this up by talking about Ivy Dickens, who is a really interesting character who I didn't engage with too much in season 4. I found her fascinating, but I thought she was a booby trap, because she tricked me her entire run. I had no idea that she wasn't Charlie Rhodes, and it was a philosophical trick. I would engage with her on certain levels and then have the rug pulled out from underneath me, and Ivy fucking tricked me. But she comes back in season 5, and I'm able to legitimately engage with her. Thought it was fascinating. So let's start our pontificating. Let's start waxing poetic. Let's get lost in our analysis straight away. Our preamble that I've established since season 1. Our lives are gossip. We remember our lives episodically. We seek out the narratives that we want to pursue. The antagonists in our lives are simply people whose narratives conflict directly with our own. In a large way, you and everyone you know are actors in an ongoing play, an ongoing soap opera. And sometimes old characters have to take on new power dynamics, and new characters have to dethrone or replace long-standing stars. The truth doesn't necessarily matter objectively. What matters is the performance, because the performance is where the value is derived, because that's where the gossip finds its narrative. Therefore, that's where our lives have meaning. Meaning is not intrinsic to life. Life, if you want to be objective, sure, life has no meaning apart from the narratives that people attach to them. Narrative is gossip. Narrative is not truth. History is gossip. History is narrative. And Gossip Girl plays with the meta narrative, the way that those narratives and the gossip itself is expressed and conveyed. I think Ivy Dickens is a fascinating character within this conceptual framework because she is acting as Serena's cousin, as a Rhodes, as Charlie Rhodes, and she becomes so method, so good at this acting that she loses herself within the role. And the role itself transcends to accommodate even her actual self, Ivy Dickens, within it. She cares for Cece, the grand matriarch of the Rhodes family, and she is there in her final days, final weeks. She's caring for her in a hospice treatment center, and in Cece's will, Cece knew that Ivy was not Charlie. She leaves everything that she has to Ivy Dickens. She knew that it was a performance and valued the performance, because that is life. That is life in the way that we live it. And the more we get to learn about Ivy, your cult boyfriend is currently situated in Florida. I know I want to swallow a bullet about it like every single day. Ivy Dickens is also from Florida, so I understand the perpetual existential dread that Floridians absolutely possess and demonstrate effortlessly with ease. I understand Ivy Dickens. We learn that she's from a trailer park kind of background, that she's white trash essentially. Um, and she is playing this role of the privileged elite It's dealing with the idea that life is certainly a society of spectacles, that genuine human behavior, that genuine moments or memories are being replaced by their representation, not even by their reproduction, right? By their representation, by what by what we associate with memory, with grand moments, with family. The representation of family has come to replace its actuality. And that's Ivy Dickens for you. She's Guy Debord on methamphetamines. Like she's Guy Debord on meth, and I love her, especially when Charlie Rhodes, the real Charlie Rhodes, makes herself available. And it falls into a lot of soap opera tropes, which is great because even when it falls into soap opera tropes, Gossip Girl being the project of Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage, who both developed the OC, which also played on these soap opera tropes. It is fine to play on soap opera tropes. It's fine to jump the shark. It's fine to have this heightened sense of an augmented reality within a teen drama because everything's exaggerated to begin with, because everything is melodramatic. The framework of it is quite intense and hypersensitive, but also it's playing with the meta narrative. The meta narrative is gossip, is the Gossip Girl blog, which I'll get into in a second. And the meta narrative is acting, is theater, is public theater, which all of these characters participate in, but Ivy does it, I think, in the most deliberately obvious kind of way. And when she starts to hang out with the real Charlie Rhodes, it's the actor and the performer. It's the real deal and her representation. And when they meet and they kind of form a bond over a period of time, like Ivy is cast out, and I still love the actor who portrays Ivy. She has such a sexy voice, and I think that she is. There's a lot of pathos from her performance, especially when she is exiled, when she is banished, when she kind of takes on an antagonistic opposition to Lily, and Lily kind of becomes truly villainous in this season, which I love to see. Kelly Rutherford, you slay me. You're great in this season. But Ivy is quite a fascinating character. But I love Ivy and the real Charlie Rhodes getting to meet and getting to bond and kind of coming to a certain kind of partnership with each other near the end of the fifth season. Because, like I said, it is the genuine article and its representation. And that is so philosophically pure and potent and out of this fucking world that it really blows my mind just thinking about it. Because Ivy has truly become emblematic of the Upper East Side. She's more Charlie Rhodes than Charlie Rhodes, and Charlie Rhodes is more outsider than she is insider. Charlie Rhodes is more Ivy Dickens than Charlie Rhodes is Charlie Rhodes. So at the same time, Ivy Dickens is viewing her representation as well. It's the fact that it's all representation. It's all narrative and how you fall within the narrative, who you're acting for, and what you're acting towards. It's all an act. And the act doesn't make anything disingenuous, especially when everything that is genuine has been replaced by its representation. So something that is genuine, sincerity has been replaced by insincerity. That doesn't mean that everything is now for want of sincerity. No, sincerity is now a non-issue, since insincerity is the watchword. It's simply a nihilistic reading of our ultra modern world, and Gossip Girl does it effortlessly, beautifully. I want to talk about the Gossip Girl blog because I don't know if I've spent too much time on it. I think it's a magnificent piece of art, piece of media, right? The blog itself, the XOXO Gossip Girl, that kind of receives a bit more focus this season, especially when Serena and Georgina, my one and only Georgina, they both gain access to Gossip Girl and run it for a certain amount of time. And of course, Georgina is a psychotic and runs it as a psychopath. But there's a bit more to Georgina. I love her. She, I mean, guys, look at this nun outfit. I'm a Jew. I'm converting immediately. Michelle Trachtenberg's a Jew too. I mean, my God, girl. What am I even saying? I'm just saying that I'm thirsty AF for Georgina Sparks, the nun. I I have found my dream, everybody. But Georgina is magnificent, so obviously a plot device. She convinces Louis, the royal head of Monaco and husband of Blair Waldorf at the time, to dissolve his marriage to Blair off screen. Reminiscent of her retrieving the stolen money back from Poppy in season 2, she conveniently overhears the most immensely important gossip so she can immediately transfer the information in service of the narrative to move the plot forward. That's Georgina's purpose. She is a postmodern wrecking ball. She sees a character being inert, and boom, like he will magically learn some new information, or she'll magically go off screen to solve a problem that is huge that the writers don't feel like solving, so they just say, just have Georgina settle it. It's fine. That's Georgina's purpose, a postmodern wrecking ball, to get these existentially inert, narratively adrift and stagnant or like impossible situations, right? Like the narrative backed itself into a corner, and you bring in Georgina to bulldoze the whole fucking wall and let the narrative just free and to go out there. I've never seen a more eloquent and sexy like she is like if I'm thirsting so much over Georgina, I think that it is extremely revealing and significant that she is symbolic of narrative itself, of the meta narrative itself, and the sexiness, the allure of great drama. That's what she is. She she is so overwhelmingly sensual and erotic and psychotic because that is truly how we like our television, how we like our narratives. And the narratives in our lives, we pursue them so much because they attract us so much because there is a thing about narratives that is sexy. And that's what Georgina is. And when she is running Gossip Girl, she is running it from that psychotic mindset. And I love her so much for it. Philip, her husband, is a low key king. He made me laugh so much in this season. Like, what a good comic duo Michelle Trachtenberg and the actor who played Philip are. He's so cool. Serena, when she gets access to the Gossip Girl website, it it amplifies the most selfish parts of her. But I think that Serena is maybe the most philosophically astute character in here. I think that naturally one would say either Dan or possibly Chuck are the most philosophically astute or aware characters. No, it's always been Serena. And I've known this ever since the beginning of season 3, where we see her game the meta narrative itself, where she is playing with paparazzi, playing with Gossip Girl, fooling them into broadcasting her whereabouts and her mini scandals and stuff to bring her father out of hiding. I knew then that she understood the meta narrative better than any other character. So I think when she's running the Gossip Girl site, it's just revealing or amplifying maybe her nihilism, maybe the fact that she does understand meta narrative so well, and that some of these other people are still um, deluding themselves into thinking that narratives have some sort of sincere core to them. Serena knows the truth. Serena, I think, is an unbelievably complex character, and I think that now we're really starting to explore her. Dan was really interesting as well. He put out a book called Inside, which is in part a love letter to Blair Waldorf and a scathing critique of everyone else in the Upper East Side. And what is it, right? What is it? What are books? What is art? What is all art? Art is the representation of its actual self, right? Every character in the book is a representation of people that he knows. The real thing being replaced by its representation. That's what art does. Art is not a sincere thing. I wish we could just get past this really infantile and naive notion that any art can be sincere. All that art strives to do is represent. That's all it could possibly do. Represent your love, to represent a political belief, to represent a spiritual one, to represent a want, need, desire, or fear. But it's not the fear itself, right? It's not the want or the desire itself. It's its representation. That's what all art does. But what's most philosophically interesting is that it works both ways. characters read parts of Dan's book or read about themselves on the Gossip Girl blog, and they start to incorporate their representation within themselves. So then your ideation, your actualization, who you actually are, starts to become part and parcel, indistinguishable between its own representation. And that's what's most fascinating about Inside by Daniel Humphrey and Dylan Hunter and all of these different representations within the book itself. Dan and Blair have quite a significant romance this season. I didn't mention it in season 4, but I did love them getting together and watching a lot of great films. This is a film channel after all. I like to think of it as a media channel with an emphasis on teen drama because I like teen drama more than I like anything else. I think it's fascinating. And man, I've already talked about a lot of kind of sophisticated concepts in this video, and I hope you understand why. But just hearing Blair Waldorf say, I'm a huge fan of Tati, let's go see Monsieur Hulot's Holiday, or they're talking about the double life of Veronique and things like that. I thought it was rather cute. I didn't know that it was a romantic involvement that the fifth season was going to pursue wholeheartedly, which it did, which I'm perfectly fine with. Gossip Girl season 4 was about teaching us a new set of symbols, about teaching us about new dynamics from familiar characters. And then season 5 was jumping the shark, following through on several ridiculous, seemingly ridiculous symbols that it introduced in the fourth season. Season 5 follows through on them. Season 5 calls season four's bluff and follows through on every wild thing that season 4 hinted at. The wildest thing that season 5 does is resurrect Bart Bass. Do I think that that's a good decision? I think it's an interesting one. I think it's a gutsy one, right? I do think that it minimizes and demeans um, Chuck's interiority, Chuck's progress as a character, for sure, from seasons 2 to 5. I think it does minimize his character growth. But I am kind of just shocked they would even do it. That Stephanie Savage and Josh Schwartz would even think about resurrecting Bart Bass. I- It's unpredictable. And it is true not to its original intent, not to its original set of symbols, to its original meta-narrative. It's true to the new set of symbols established by season 4, and I am very impressed by its structural quality. Now, I do think it is I wouldn't have done that. Um, but if you're keeping score, that's the first misstep I think the show made, and it's not even really a misstep. When Bart Bass died, right? He was replaced by his representation, either viewed as like the shadow or the ghost that kept haunting Chuck and following him through his days and just towering over him, or his representation as literally Bass Industries, the empire. In a way, that completely stays true to Gossip Girl's philosophical kind of energy and frameworks. Art was never even dead because he was constantly ever present, or his representation was, all throughout until season 5. And now Bart is actually back and resurrected, meaning that those representations are now consolidated within one physical body. So there's still a lot of philosophy to Bart Bass being alive. I think that Bart Bass is obviously going to be a plot device, and I hope it's to get Jack and Chuck and Blair on the same page to bring him down in season 6, but I hope more so it's to serve as the impetus, as the driving force behind Lily Kane. Lily Kane. That's Veronica Mars. Holy shit, I'm sorry. Behind Lily Vanderwoodson, Humphrey Bass, whatever her fucking name is, becoming like a true antagonistic force. Right? Or I hope there's something I've been missing and Rufus is in on some scheme or something. And like or Bart is in on some scheme. I hope there's something that I'm missing as well because Gossip Girl is all about sleight of hand. Um, sometimes fairly, but mostly unfairly. There's no way to see some of this stuff coming, and I love it for it because that's the way that meta narratives work. Nate has a brief affair with not a brief affair, it lasts pretty long, with Elizabeth Hurley, who's in this season, who is pretty sexy and kind of fun. I wish she were a better actor. She's not, but I think that she fits the vibe of Gossip Girl. I, sh Her character is a bit grating. But speaking of a character who's always been grating that I've come to deeply appreciate, Desmond Harrington as Jack Bass, really good. Really good. I'm finally understanding his approach to the character. And Jack Bass is, in retrospect, he is this kind of he's almost like Chuck's Georgina, right? Like he's almost like this weird kind of force that comes in that the writers are really able to have a lot of freedom with. And in retrospect, they've done a lot of kind of wild things with Jack Bass and Desmond Harrington. That's a pretty fearless portrayal of the character, you know, because he's so viciously unlikable and unremarkable. I like him a lot, actually. MVP of the season might actually be Serena or Ivy. For a little while there, I was thinking Dan was doing the most interesting things, but he got overshadowed pretty quickly. But I mean, his inside book was interesting. It was interesting to see him kind of um, be banished in a way for the representation of his friends within the fictional book or whatever. But Serena and Ivy are really fascinating people. Serena, I think what makes her so fascinating is something that goes kind of under the radar, and it's partly due to Blake Lively's like extremely nuanced performance, to be honest. I spent a lot of time talking about Blair Waldorf and Leighton Meester's like understandably like huge and amazing performance every single episode as Blair Waldorf, but she kind of is afforded the opportunity to be a bit more theatrical, right? A bit more melodramatic. Whereas Blake Lively, her approach to Serena and also the writer's approach to Serena is something that's a bit more actually like multifaceted in a way, and nuanced for sure. Because Blake Lively, she approaches Serena with a great deal of understanding. Like I said, I think she is the most self-aware character, at least the most philosophically intelligent when it comes to gossip, how gossip is transferred, how gossip, how important and vital gossip is to information, to power plays, to personality and history, fashion, art. I think that Serena is fully aware of these things, and I think that Serena has been gaming the meta narrative ever since season 2 and 3. I think she's been gaming that narrative, or possibly even earlier, right? Serena's always understood not only the value of meta narrative, but how to monopolize it and how significant an act's representation is. I mean, at the end of this season, right, she videotapes Dan cheating on Blair with her. And if they had just done the act and not filmed it, that wouldn't have been enough. You need to film it. She didn't post it to Gossip Girl, that was her original intent, but she knows that the only thing that is more important is its representation, right? And what was the act reminiscent of? It was reminiscent of Serena sleeping with Nate way back, even before the pilot episode. We saw it in flashbacks. It was the representation that was representative of Serena's dominance over Blair when it comes to the men in her life that Serena wants instead. Serena knows about representations. That's why she's always on display. Her life is one of display. Her life is gossip. What's foolish about Serena is that she still believes in a sincerity within the spotlight. But I think she's just fooling herself, and I think she will realize that eventually. All in all, the fifth season of Gossip Girl was a very interesting one indeed. Um, they did some really fascinating things here. And yeah, so many interesting concepts were investigated, and we really get to talk a lot about gossip as this philosophy of representations, as the philosophy of the society of the spectacle. We get to talk about the Gossip Girl blog as this truly sentient, truly captivating piece of media, piece of life. It's like a shared God thing, right? It's like the cultural author of the Upper East Side, which is the universe so far as Gossip Girl is concerned. And God is a shared power, right? We all have the ability to affect our narratives, to affect the narratives of our lives. And the narratives of our lives is how the meaning of our lives are derived. It's how we come to them. It's through the narratives that bring us there. And you might not know that you're doing this, but you are. You want a certain kind of meaning for your life, so you pursue that meaning until it becomes real. But even when you get it, you must know that you're not actually at the meaning. You're at the meaning's representation, which, by the way, isn't real. It's better than real. It's gossip. I'll be back to talk about the sixth and final season of Gossip Girl. Yes, this is the best teen drama I've ever covered on this channel. I'm stunned, floored, shocked by how good it is. Till next time, XO, XO.